Die Mittagspause.
3, 4, 5. 3. Okay.
So as you know, we are on time. So welcome to this press conference of Team Germany for the upcoming match tomorrow, the quarterfinal against Spain. Warm welcome to the head coach of Team Germany, Julian Nagelsmann.
Hello.
Short reminder, as you know, please wait for the microphone if you have a question and introduce yourself. Simultaneous interpretation is available in English, German, and Spain. So we can start. Julian Nagelsmann, wie laufen die Vorbereitungen aufs morgige Spiel?
Mr. Nagelsmann, how does the preparation go for the match tomorrow? Yes, hello, good evening. We have finished, hopefully. Tomorrow we will have a few more discussions with the players, who will start, who will not start. I will have individual conversations, certainly, which I already had today. We had many video analysis about the game of Denmark and for the match of Spain too also. So we are well prepared. We are quite confident, and we're confident that we will make a good game. Julian, tomorrow the big question is about the formation. Leroy Sane or Florian Wirtz? Who will start? Maybe you can answer that. And in regards to Florian Wirtz, you're a real fan of him. You tried already to bring him to FC Bayern Munich, but back then he was injured, and it didn't come to that then. Well, I can answer the question, but I don't want to answer. We still have one or two question marks. We're still waiting for the last evening, still having some reflections, always trying to write a script for the game. You never can really predict every situation, but of course you try to find out what do you need in certain situations, and then we will take a decision. That was the same for the last match, when you can make a decision between Florian and Leroy. That's quite a good dilemma. I'm really convinced of Florian and Leroy. There were thoughts of many clubs, I think, bringing Florian to them in their rows. So I think it wasn't the only club, Bayern. Mr. Nagelsmann, Spain was really confident during those last days, also sent a few remarks towards Germany. How do you like that? What does it do with your team? And do you counter that? Well, I wouldn't say there were too harsh remarks. It was really humorous. Toni already said it, and I see it the same way as Toni Kroos. If it was really Carvajal's goal that Toni makes his last goal, if it wouldn't be his goal, it would be bizarre. So I personally, it doesn't affect me at all. I don't like to talk too much. I want to show it on the pitch, what we want to do. I want to show our goals on the pitch. And the others can assess themselves about what they want to talk in public.
Do you think that this clash is the early final of the tournament? And if you had a chance to change that, would you prefer to play against Spain in the final instead of quarterfinal? What makes both teams the most favorites of the tournament?
I don't know if it's kind of a final. It's a quarterfinal, at least. We want to win the game. We want to be one of the teams in the semi-final, and we have a big aim in our home country to be a European champion. I think that's the same for Spain as well. They want to be champion as well. So at the end, it will be a tough game tomorrow. I think both teams are good in ball possession and also have good qualities in counter-pressing. So at least both teams have the capability to build kind of a big pressure for the opponent's defense row and for the opponent's goal. At least I think tomorrow will be very important to solve a lot of one-on-one situations in our defense, but also in our offense. And then we will see if the game will be that interesting, like everybody predict at the moment.
Danke. Julian Wolf, Die Welt aus Deutschland. Herr Nagelsmann, es wurde diese Woche sehr viel gesprochen über den Jüngsten.
Mr. Nagelsmann, this week there were lots of talks about the youngest player of the game, Yamal. How do you plan to control him, and are you impressed of him with his 16 years only? Yes, he's a big talent. He was really constant during this season, but his job is to deliver that for a few years. I think there are not many players who are that stable at this age. But of course, I guess he has a very good surrounding. He needs a lot of people around him who have his back. Also at Barcelona, I think you better ask this question to Ilkay, how it works at club level. But of course, he has big qualities. He's very good in the one-on-ones, and he's only 16 years old. So there are also big chances for our players in that regard to counter him. I think you can't always defend him because he's so variable. He's going inside and the outside. His left foot is stronger than his right foot, but he can still use his right foot. So we need to be prepared for several things, but on the other hand, he doesn't have so much experience on that level when things don't go his way or when the opponent tackles him a little bit stronger. So this is not a plan that we want to hurt him or tackle him all the time, but of course, he's an interesting player. He's doing a very good job, and for the neutral fan, the neutral spectator, he's definitely a joy to watch. When you announced the squad, you said if you play a good tournament and if it would be over in the knockout stage after a good game, you could still talk about a good, successful tournament. You said this a few weeks ago. How would you assess this statement now? Always in the same way. I always judge matches after the match, how the performance was. I think you can advance against Spain, but you can also get eliminated. I think the Spanish trainer, the Spanish coach, if he's as frank as I am, he would say the same. So I would say this is a match at even level, and after the match I can assess if we did many things great or if we did too many mistakes. Also without watching too much at the result, but in general, of course, we want to qualify for the next round. We put everything on the pitch to qualify for the next round. And I'm not a pessimistic person, so I will assess this match, hopefully, as a participant of the semi-final. Mr. Nagelsmann, for the case, the scenario of a penalty shootout, what are your criteria to pick out shooters? Well, first of all, we have already a prepared list, and then we need to have those players on the pitch, the ones we have in mind, because sometimes you're thinking about deciding a match before the final whistle, before it comes to penalty shootouts. Then, of course, we have a coach for set pieces who evaluated all that on a club level, who was shooting at which rate and so on. And the most important thing is the confidence of the player in that moment. Today, as of today, we have almost too many, so it doesn't give me a headache too much that we wouldn't find at least 5 good strikers.
Mr. Nagelsmann, TV4 Sweden here. It's a long time since Germany beat Spain in a competitive match. Actually, it had to be back in the days when it was West Germany. Is it something that in the Spanish way of playing that doesn't really fit Germany?
I do not know. I was not part of these games. So at the end, I will not talk about these games, at least when I'll be part of the next 20 games against Spain. We do not win one of these games, then I make my thoughts. But at the moment, I'm totally relaxed.
Danke. Florian Blettmerk für Sky. Julian, viel wird über Yamal gesprochen, über Williams.
Julian, there's a lot of talk about Yamal, about Williams. When you prepare your team, do you focus on the wingers? Do you focus on Morata? How do you assess the offensive play of the Spanish, which I thought was quite obvious? And once again, about the remarks, Pedri was criticizing Rudiger today. Do you think there's a little bit of hot sauce in this duel now? Well, Pedri said about Rudiger that he's always pincing him on the pitch and it would hurt. So what do you think? What does it say about this duel? Well, my focus is not so much on Yamal, but on Jamal. I think we have a lot of quality ourselves. We can create a lot ourselves. There's many approaches how you can fight against a team who likes ball possession. That's, of course, you need a good defensive approach. We have different variants, and the Spanish will have difficulty also to adapt to every variation. It's also our approach that we want to have the ball. It's always easier to play against a team who wants to have the ball when you have the ball yourself. So this is our ambition and also our confidence, our conviction that we want to have the ball. Of course, we won't manage to do that for 90 minutes. There will be periods where we want to attack, where we want to take spaces away from them. Their offensive play has a clear idea. It's quite obvious to analyze, but also it's linked with a lot of quality. The players that they have on the wings are not easy to defend, and they also have two very strong fullbacks who are not in every situation, who are not playing every situation with many double passes, but they do very good pathways and create spaces for their wingers or for one of the eights, Pedri, for example. And this combination makes it quite complex, but also there's always a solution. This is a fact. And Antonio is a real defender. If he already pinched Pedri, I don't know. I can't comment on that. They should talk about that after the match, if it was hurtful or not. I can't comment on that. And about hot sauce, yeah, well, it's a quarterfinal at the Euro. What do you say? What do you think? Of course it's hot. Yeah, speaking of big games, you already experienced a few big games. Would you say that this quarterfinal at the Euro as national coach is the biggest game of your career? And do you approach it differently in the preparation as usual? Well, and in the moment itself, it's always the biggest game. Before the other biggest games, it was as well like that. But I don't know what's coming afterwards. But for sure, it's one of the more significant games, for sure. No question about that. Because it's also very terminal. Either you make it or you go home. And for me, personally, I think it's best to do your preparation as you do always. So we don't change anything. We don't have more conversations. I'm not going to a special place or something like that. Everything stays the same in our preparation. It's not superstition, but it's also more about fixed dates, like today, for example, this press conference. And then at 1800, we already have kickoff. So there's not so much time, actually.
In Spanish, please. El otro día, Leroy Sané habló de la presión alta de España.
The other day, Leroy Sané spoke about the high pressure from Spain. You just mentioned how important do you think that factor is going to be for you, for Germany, and for Spain, that high pressure from Spain? Thank you.
Well, Spain always tries to press very high when they lose the ball, but also when they have the ball, they always try to get the ball as high as possible. That's really a quality that they gained, and they have a very good transition game now after they win the ball. They don't play so much tiki-taka anymore, but they go straight towards the goal. And that's how they create more goal chances. Maybe not all the time, but definitely more than in the past. But there's also always a risk when we can find a solution out of these situations in a football way. And I think that we will manage to do that tomorrow. 3 weeks ago, you held a press conference in Munich and you talked about the faith into this team. You were talking also about the public audience and their faith in the team. What happened since then? Well, we're kind of in our bubble, in our camp, so we don't see it all. But of course, we see the videos of the fan zones in all the cities, the solidarity, the support all over the country. I think there were very exciting matches, very clear matches. There were matches also that could have had another result. So I think we offered a lot in terms of attractivity and in terms of emotions and attractive football. So we feel that support, that huge support. And I already said a couple of times that we need it because it's carrying us. So I think we also give something back. So it's a very good symbiosis. I think the atmosphere will be very good tomorrow at Stuttgart. Together we are stronger. This is our home advantage, so we should make use of it to have a successful match tomorrow.
In Spanish, please.
I don't know if you are the kind of coach that in the dressing room you talk about that hot sauce, right? If what Joselu said, that they want to retire Toni Kroos, or that the previous Spanish coach said that Spain is favorite, or Pedri talking about Rudiger. I don't know if you use those sort of things to motivate the dressing room or not.
I'm not really mentioning it because it's written in every journal. I think the players are already confronted with that and they have to assess it themselves. But if they need it for motivation, or if it is a motivation, well, I already explained my approach. I want to make the game, and afterwards we can talk about such topics. This morning, the new haircut of Robert Andrich was topic number one. When did you see him for the first time like that? And is it also good that now everything is about football again? Because with the long break, you could sometimes have the impression that there was boredom. You were bored, or we were bored? No, Andrich. No, I don't think he has enough on his plate. He has enough to do. I saw him yesterday and I am quite surprised that it is the topic number one in the sports media. It should be more for the tabloids, but well, to everyone, his or her cup of tea. I'm not commenting on haircuts. But of course, there are haircuts where you need to deliver a little bit more than the others. And if Robert's haircut is part of those haircuts, it's up to you to assess that. Since the Euro, we drive around Germany in our bus and we talk with the supporters about the special Euro moments. There are very good Euro moments, thanks to you and your team. Now the question, what is your best Euro moment? Well, I think there are a few already. Well, of course, the first match after 3-0, when you feel already, okay, apparently we've done the first step, that was something special. But then also to qualify against Denmark, because in this match there were a few moments which are quite unusual also for football, with the interruptions and a few video referee decisions where you don't know if it's going in the good or wrong direction for yourself. So there were a few moments which and other moments that I don't want to cite, actually.
Sí, aquí, señor Nagelsmann, Alejandro Diego para OneFootball. Hace 4 años Alemania y España se enfrentaron en Sevilla en la Nations League y España
Germany and Spain have already played in the Nations League, and Spain gave Germany quite a beating. Is there a sort of hunger for revenge in the Germany dressing room after that 6-0?
For me, it's always very difficult to comment those games, and I will never talk in the lockers or say anything that this will be a revenge for one of those games. It's very hard to assess those games from the past. I have an idea what we wanted to do back then, or the Spanish wanted to do. I have no idea, excuse me, because I wasn't part of the whole thing. So in that regard, it's not relevant at all for tomorrow. The players who played this game back then, maybe they have revenge feelings. If they want to live those feelings, I'm not against it, but I can't really assess it. You already mentioned the atmosphere, the euphoria that you started in Germany, but also those nice images with the supporters from Scotland, Turkey, Austria, and this football party. Of course, it's joyful, but we can already see that a big tournament such as this won't happen in Germany for a long time. But would you be motivated to apply for another World Cup so we don't have to wait another 20 years for a big tournament in our country? Well, I understand this, but I can't assess the complexity of such a process. I can imagine that it's very laborious to organize such a tournament, and I guess it's even more complex with a World Cup. And of course, from the perspective of a supporter or from the perspective of a coach, it's always very special to have that in your own country. To see it as from the perspective of a supporter, I'd say Germany should always try it. But I think there's many factors that come into that. Now we're really happy that it's here, and we stay to be in it for the longest time possible. Toni Kroos said yesterday that these matches are decided in the midfield. Do you agree? And what do you expect in the midfield, for example, against Rodri? Some people think he's the best midfielder in the world. Yes, many games are decided in the midfield. I like that Toni says that, because he puts the responsibility on his own shoulders. That's a very good sign of his personality and his character. Well, in the middle, from the back to the strikers, they have very good players, very good quality. And our axis is also very strong, from our goalkeeper to our striker. So we don't have to be scared. We can be very happy and look forward to this match. Yes, Rodri is one of the central players, but also for him we developed solutions and ideas that he can't always come into play.
Muy buenas, Julian. Alberto Rubio para Marca en español, si es posible. El fútbol de selecciones normalmente está
for football, being in charge of a national team is normally carried out by more experienced coaches, and you have renewed until 2026. What is the calling? What do you find most interesting in directing a national team as opposed to directing a club?
Two big tournaments is interesting. The Euro in your own country, and then the World Cup, USA, Canada, Mexico. It's extremely interesting as well. And well, you always look at what you can improve on yourself also as a coach. And there are components, areas. I won't detail them now, but there are things that I need way more as a national coach than as a club coach, but that I want to improve as a club coach for my career. So that's where I can benefit a lot for my personal improvement, for my personal development. And the third argument, the third point is that you always have a new, interesting squad. You have to try to compose that very different group and try to be successful with that. So that's really interesting. On the contrary, when you're a long time in a club, you have maybe more other options. And here at the national team, I have a very nice work climate, very good bosses, superiors who believe in us, who support us all the time, who never doubt for a second. And this is a very good climate, very good atmosphere for tomorrow. Thank you, Julian Nagelsmann.